Alright, so I saw the sci-fi original movie Dungeons and Dragons 3, The Book of Vile Darkness. And I heard a number of things going into this movie. I heard a bunch of different perspectives. I heard that you if you've played the game, then you won't like this movie and then I've also heard that you'll only like this movie if you've played the game. I heard that this movie is way better than the last two movies, and I heard that this movie makes the first two movies look like masterpieces. So I really didn't know what to expect from all that. So I saw this movie, and you know what? I found it enjoyable. I found it entertaining, but it's not easy to keep up with because okay, I haven't seen the first movie. I've seen part of it, and it didn't look good. The acting sucked, and it didn't look. I just saw like one scene. It didn't sell me so. But I have seen the second movie, and I did really like the second movie. I thought it was actually a really well-made fantasy movie. I'm gonna take a different point of view because I've only heard that this movie's better than the last two movies, or it's way worse than the last two movies. I'm gonna be someone that says I like the second movie the best out of the three, and well, I haven't seen the first one, but I don't really plan on it. This movie, that's just because I really did like the second movie. I thought it was a well-made movie, but this one, it was more just an entertaining ride, because a lot of times it didn't feel like a movie. It kind of felt like just a game, like because I haven't played the game either, so I don't know much about it, and that was one of the takes on this movie that if you haven't played the game, then you won't like this movie. But I mean, I still liked it. I liked pieces of it. I didn't think overall it was a really good movie. I did really like some of the parts in this movie though. I'll get more into detail about like what goes on in the movie and what parts I liked, but I'll just start out with the plot because the plot is kind of hard to keep up with because this movie, the second movie, I didn't have trouble like following along with what was happening. But this movie, because it opens with like a preface or prologue, I don't know what you call it, but it gives you an introduction like some movies do, where it just opens up, it explains like the backstory, and then it just jumps into where it leaves off in that. But you have to really pay attention because otherwise a lot of things won't make sense in this movie. And I have seen this movie twice because I don't know how, but it's already this movie is already available on YouTube. The whole movie for free. You can just watch on YouTube in one video. And so I'll admit I did watch this movie before it premiered on Sci-Fi Channel, but I wanted to just wait till after Sci-Fi Channel to watch it. And I watched it again, and I picked up a little more the second time watching it, but not much. I mean, there's still parts I'm confused about, and I'll get into that when I explain the plot and get more into like the bits of the movie that I liked. But yeah, so apparently there's like this Dark Lord who created a book. It's the Book of Vile Darkness. Or I know that's I don't even know. I'm forgive me if you have seen this movie and you like know perfectly well what happened because maybe it's easier to understand if you have played the game. And apparently this movie was made. Movie was like based on a book too. So I don't know exactly, but so forgive me if I'm just like screwing up the plot. But what I think I know that the pages of the book were like made from the skin of somebody. It might have been the Dark Lord that ruled for a while, and then the or the cover was hammered from the bones, and the ink was made from his blood, his diseased blood. And then the book got separated because things, I'm not sure. And there's these knights that want to restore peace. So there's the main character is one of those knights who swore an oath to like restore peace. I don't know if that's all the backstory you need, but anyway, it opens with the main character. I think his name's Grayson, who is part of like these group of knights who carry a medallion. The medallion like is given to them by like a lord, and the medallion comes into play a few times in like the end of the movie. But yeah, he doesn't get granted what he needs or something when he's like at an obelisk and he's like trying to be sworn in or something. I'm not sure. And there's some stuff that happens then, and then he needs to find his father. His father's captured by a Dark Lord or some bad guy. I don't know if it is the same Dark Lord that like it was talked about in the beginning, who was like had to do with the book. But yeah, he needs to find his father, and when he gets his father's at the end. And first of all, I'm not buying this is his father. The guy's like five. He looks like 5 years older than his son, and so whatever. But yeah, I'll just mention that right now. But like he, in order to get the where he wants, he needs to join this group of like this clan or something. And this is where I think that this movie has a bit of charm, is because these group of people, the main characters, they're not really good guys. They kind of just form a mutual alliance to work together or something. And I read other reviews, and yeah, it's what people are saying is that because I didn't really gather that the first time watching this. But yeah, these people aren't really good guys, and that kind of makes sense for some of the things that confused me. This that I didn't get the first time either is because they like go to uh, a village. They kill a dragon, and they go to a village and like and they steal treasure there, and then they just kind of leave and kill like the leader of the town. I didn't really understand that until someone was like explaining that this is kind of an evil clan, but they still appear they're not the villains though. They're people that you want to win, because at the end they kind of like are still against the main villain who you don't see until the very end. But I like that about this movie, is that it's different, and the protagonists are kind of like their own twist on an antagonist, but you still want to root for them. Yeah, so the guy has to find his father and save him, and that'll stop the book. But they need a piece of the Book of Wild. They need the cover, and they end up finding the cover, and that allows them to like teleport to the place where the Dark Lord has like the pages, because he's already has the pages. The ink was destroyed. They're gonna make new ink from the father using his blood, but then I don't know if he was like bait or something, because then they just they get rid of him and then put in the son, because when they get there, yeah, and then the ending happens, and that's about this movie. But I think I don't know if you could call this a charm. I'd rather this have more of a movie feeling to this, but if you could call it a charm about this movie, that it did feel kind of like it was just playing a game. Like some of the things didn't seem like they needed to happen, but it all still connected like a game, or whether it's a board game or a video game. That's one of the things about that I liked about the second movie, is that some things did feel like a video game, but that was just like the puzzle element to it, and like how they got out of situations. But in this thing, it just kind of feels like they did things to get through the plot. But I'm not sure. If I did play the actual game, or if I watched this a few more times and tried to pay attention to the plot and every piece of dialogue more, maybe I'd pick up on more things. But yeah, I don't know what the point of, because one of the first things they encounter is a dragon once they form an alliance, and so they kill the dragon and they go to the village where it was killing them. And well, they like take treasure. They do take treasure from the dragon's lair, and they find a horn, and it comes in. Oh yeah, it does come into play another time. Yeah, the horn they find. So I guess that does make sense then. Never mind. But there's still other things that confuse me. But anyway, the dragon. First of all, the dragon in this movie, the CGI in this movie is a lot better than in the second movie. But I mean, it didn't really bother me in the second movie. It was obviously CGI. And in Book of Vile Darkness, it you can still tell it's CGI. But I mean, it looks sharp, and it looks it like blends in well sometimes. The dragon is probably one of the least believable points of CGI, but there's other things that are like creatures that are complete CGI in this, and they actually look pretty cool, and I'll explain that when it comes. But yeah, and another reason that I didn't like the second or I didn't like this movie as much as the second movie is because it didn't have the really cool soundtrack that the second movie had. The second movie had this cool music that added to when like there were fight scenes or like chase scenes, and it was a cool song. And this movie didn't really. This movie had music, but it was very subtle and wasn't like orchestra type music or whatever. But there's other things in this movie that made it enjoyable, like little pieces of dialogue that were kind of funny. Like what's one? Oh yeah, there's this one guy that he looks like a villain. I mean, he's one of the on the team, so he's one of the protagonist bad guys, if you will. But you later find out he's kind of is a bad guy. But there's one line that I really like that he says, "Sometimes it's better to keep your mouth shut and let people think you are a fool than to open it and remove all doubt." And yeah, this guy has some other pieces of dialogue that I like, but not all of them are funny. Some of them are just cool to listen to. Like there's one about him where he's like offering a piece of the dragon's tail that he gives to Grayson. I think that's his name. Probably. I hope I'm not screwing up the main character's name, but he gives it to him. He's holding on to it though, and he's like tugging on it because he's like go on, take it, and he's like tugging on it, and he's telling him about like how to trap a raccoon and give it an apple or something. You just have to listen to it. But there's another cool spell kind of thing that or cool I don't know item or ability that this guy has where he can make his eyeball come out of his head and like extend like a mile. And he does this one time where he's looking around in the dragon cave, and you don't see it like coming out, but you see it like coming from the side of his head, and it's like a shot on the side of his head, and it's his eye that's not closest to the camera, but then he kind of like tilts his head toward the Grayson guy, and he winks at him with the eye that's not extended, and I thought that was funny. And the lead actress, who I guess I can talk about the acting now. The acting in this movie is believable, but like the main character at some point, he seems like the type of acting that's passable, but you don't really care for the character, if that makes sense. I don't know, but it's just he seems kind of like he's trying to act, but he's not acting bad. I don't know if that makes sense at all, but I guess I'm saying his performance isn't the best at those points. That's just as far as I want to get with that. But then the lead actress, she's good, but only when she's not like saying she's so much better than like someone else. Like in The Village when she's yelling at like the guy in charge of the village. I don't know what you'd call him, but she's yelling at him, and it just seems like she's so full of herself. She's like, "You better be careful." Or she doesn't say that, but that's like her attitude, and just makes me mad. But she has this cool ability where she can teleport her arms, and so she like uses that to like teleport her arms to, and then her arms will like appear over this guy's head, and she puts like a necklace on them that'll explode. But there's another point where she uses them that I just think is funny because she's like 5 feet away from the main character, and the main character at this point is still like trying to be a good guy because he's like on the knights that are like trying to keep peace. Or when it's the scene before the dragon when they're about to go to him, and the dragon is like taking away these people to its cave, and they're counting how many people it's taken to its cave, and the guy says like it takes 1 hour for the dragon to digest someone, and then the girl's counting how many people it's taken away, and she's like, "All right, we've got 5 hours then," and he's like, "4.5. One of them was a child." And then the lead guy Grayson is like, "Wouldn't it be better to go now so we can rescue the people and prevent the dragon from killing them?" and then the girl just teleports her arm like 5 feet to the guy and slaps him with it. And I just think that that's so hilarious because she could have just like leaned over a little bit and slapped him, but she just uses the teleporting arms to slap him, and that's just I like that. There's another point that confused me though, and that's where Grayson kills one of the people on the team, and I don't know why. It might have it probably is explained if I had paid attention, but I didn't it didn't seem like something that was in his character to do at that point. And I guess it makes sense because uh in the next scene there's this thing called the undead child, and it feeds on like bad feelings and bad things that you've done. And so when it's like it's like sucking on the character's fingers that are left, and it says when it sucks on Grayson's fingers, it's like you've done bad things. And then the character, the guy that like can make his eyeball go far says some, I don't remember his name, but he wears like kind of a mask thing, so you'll know what I'm talking about. He says, "You did it, or at least you did when you killed whatever the other character's name." He says it, and so I guess that's like his way of like making it so they could get past the girl, the undead child. But then it kind of like throws that to waste when it sucks on the girl's finger, and it's like love, because like compassion and good feelings like poison it because the girl is created from dark feelings and bad things, and so it's like love, ew, and she's like throwing a tantrum, and then she just summons the guy that has the book cover, who's this cool like fire glowing demon thing, knight type of guy. So I don't know why that was necessary for the main character to kill that other guy, but whatever. I'm sure it's excusable. But about the undead child is it's creepy as hell. I mean, this thing's really disturbing looking, and you don't see it at first. It's like in darkness, and you don't see its face, and it like crawls and jumps up to the camera, and it's like it's a good jump scare if you're not expecting it. It looks really, really creepy. I mean, it almost looks like its hairline. It's still like this little girl, but it looks like its hairline has receded way back, so it's like hairs on the back of its head almost, and it looks like a man who's been balding. And its eyes are like little grayish blue orbs, and it blinks vertically instead of horizontally, so that makes it almost insect alien like. Yeah, it's really creepy, and the little girl is all CGI, and that's the other point the other CGI thing I wanted to mention that I think was really well done, because it doesn't look that it doesn't take you away from the scene at all. It's like, oh, it's a CGI thing. It's like, no, it looks decent. It looks really decent, and it's still, I mean, if it's decent enough to be like creepy as hell, then I think it did a good job. And it's not supposed to look like a real little girl anyway. I mean, it looks kind of it looks all mutated, so that's nothing really wrong they did on that point. And then they get the book, and they get the book cover from Killing the Knight, who's like, it's in his chest, the fire glowy knight thing. Then they go to his father, his 5 years older than the son father. Like all of a sudden they're in this like really high above the sky like island thing, and they don't know it at first because like they look out a window and like the camera pans away, and they see they're way up in the sky, like, and then the movie kind of seems like rushed at this point because they're just like explaining what they should do, and like, oh yeah, this'll work because then this, and the villain. Okay, a villain is the really cool. I don't know who came up with where this idea came from, but I really like this idea. The villain is the guy who's like trying to piece the book together. He's this bald guy whose mouth is like sewn shut, and he's like chained to these two women, and he moves his mouth even though it's like sewn shut. You can see like his jaw moving like he's trying to talk, and he talks through the two girls that he's chained to, That's his way of communicating. I think that's really cool. I really like that. That makes this movie really entertaining, as far as I'm concerned. Just that one character makes this movie worthwhile. But I do think this movie is entertaining overall, even though it seems rushed in the end because like it seems I don't know what it is because it's like the guy was chained. They got rid of the father, or they put him to the side to like watch his son be chained up to like for him to have his blood removed for the ink. But then all of a sudden they're like the girl just seems to be like the girl who can teleport her arms just seems to be like, oh yeah, I can just set him free because I'm being held back, but I can teleport my arms. So she like gives him the thing, the medallion to like raising there, because at this point like the medallion's using its power because it's in the right place, and so she just gives him the medallion again because it was taken away from him or something, and then he's like, oh, here's the medallion, and we're all gone, and he like kills everybody, and then the father hugs him, and he leaves, and then the lead actor and the lead actress are both the ones remaining, and she's like, all right, see you around, and if everybody, and she like says something, it's like it's like one of those dialogues that like, oh, by the way, we never met or something like that, and then she turns into these flies. Like all the main characters except for Grayson can like turn into these bugs and like reassemble into a person or something. I don't know. So she does that and flies for the camera, and there's your movie, and it's kind of leaves you like, all right. But I mean, there's enough points in this movie that makes me want to see it again. I mean, it was entertaining. It was a fun ride. So I'd recommend it to. If you didn't like the second movie, then I can't exactly recommend this movie because I thought the second movie was better. But I mean, I still found this movie entertaining. There's some cool points in there. It's just fun to watch and some fun dialogue and everything. So there's my review. Dungeons and Dragons 3: The Book of Vile Darkness. Bing bang goodbye.